Nokia didn't fail because it was slow. It failed because it was afraid. And once you understand what Nokia was afraid of, you'll realize this collapse was inevitable. Not because they lacked innovation, but because they lost the ability to tell the truth. Because here's what nobody tells you: Nokia already knew it was in trouble. Engineers knew, designers knew, even some executives knew. But the people who should have acted didn't. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly who failed Nokia and why not everyone agrees it was fear. Most people think Nokia collapsed because Apple arrived, or because Android moved faster, or because Microsoft made bad decisions. That's the simple version. The real version is messier, because even today, Nokia's own leaders disagree on what really happened. In the early 2000s, Nokia was untouchable. Over 40% global market share, massive profits, phones that never broke. But internally, cracks were forming. Many former employees describe an environment where middle management feared delivering bad news upward. Targets mattered more than truth. Reassurance mattered more than reality. But here's where the story gets uncomfortable, because not everyone at Nokia agrees this culture even existed. Nokia's core software, Symbian, was under strain. Engineers repeatedly warned leadership it was too complex and outdated. Former Nokia engineer Ari Yaxi later said, "We were afraid to tell the truth because the messengers were often punished." Multiple engineers echoed the same theme. Speaking honestly felt dangerous, but executives would later tell a very different story. Former Nokia CEO Jorma Ollila rejected the idea that fear drove decisions. He argued that Nokia's leadership was open to criticism, saying the company encouraged debate and discussion. According to Ollila, the problem wasn't fear, it was the sheer complexity of the transition to smartphones. Two narratives, same company, completely different realities. So who was right? The engineers who built the software, or the executives who oversaw it? Here's where things become clearer. Even if leaders believed they were open, many employees didn't experience it that way. Former chairman Risto Siilasmaa later admitted that Nokia suffered from a lack of honest, real-time information flowing to the top. That matters, because leadership intent doesn't matter if reality never reaches them. In 2010, Stephen Elop became CEO. What he saw alarmed him. In his now famous internal memo, he wrote, "We are standing on a burning platform, and we must decide how we are going to change our behavior." That memo wasn't motivational, it was a warning. Elop believed Nokia's biggest enemy wasn't Apple, it was internal denial. By the time Elop spoke openly, years of delayed truth had taken their toll. Teams were fragmented, trust was eroded, execution was slow, not because people were lazy, but because fear had drained momentum. The Microsoft partnership wasn't the start of Nokia's collapse. It was an admission that internal change had failed. Elop later suggested that Nokia needed an external shock because the company could no longer fix itself from within. Nokia wasn't killed by Apple or Android or Microsoft. It was damaged by a disconnect between leadership perception and employee reality. Executives believed debate was encouraged. Engineers felt silence was safer. That gap is where fear lived. Nokia's story isn't really about phones. It's about what happens when leaders think they're listening, but aren't hearing the truth. Because the moment bad news gets filtered, collapse becomes invisible. Nokia didn't fail because it was slow. It failed because it was afraid. And fear doesn't need a villain. It just needs silence.